pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd just like to make a couple of comments before we get into voting tonight. First of all, I'd like to have an organized meeting tonight, and if anyone from the audience would like to speak, please raise your hand. I'll acknowledge you. You come to the microphone, state your name, and we'll let you speak. Anyone from the Budget Committee, same process. If you want to be recognized by the chair, raise your hand, and I'll let you speak. We don't need any kind of conversations going back and forth with the audience. Everything should come through the chair. Okay, number one. Sally gave me this big gavel. It's never been used, and I don't want to have to use it.
I got that at the flea market, just in case.
Just in case we need it. I'm going down to Granite Place after this.
I have to give it back, though, in case I need it.
The second comment I'd like to make is that there's been some articles written in the papers, Newport Daily News, the Current Times, wherever it may be, Patch. This Budget Committee has no intention or any intent to have any type of investigation going on with any department in this town. That's not our purview. We are here to set a budget. The town council has a role of policies, procedures, hiring, firing, and all other matters. So let them do their job, we do our job, and we'll all get along. Now, saying that, I can't stop anyone, individuals, from going on their own and making comments. But what we can do is, you can't use the Budget Committee as your crutch. If you want to go out and make statements or do whatever you want to do, please do not use the Budget Committee's name or you were doing any kind of investigation for the Budget Committee. Because the only way that can happen is we have to take a vote, and it has to come through me because I am the spokesman for the Budget Committee. That was in the very first meeting that we had.
I'd like to respond to that, please.
Go ahead.
Since I'm the person that, let me first say that I never said that I was authorized by the Budget Committee to do an investigation. I said, as a member of the Budget Committee, I'm trying to inform myself on the ongoing process and the investigation into departments in this town, so that I, as a member of the Budget Committee, can be better informed, and I did intend to share the information with the Budget Committee. I never at any time said that I was authorized or working for or as a member of the Budget Committee for the entire Budget Committee. I have interests. I want to be able to make informed votes. We're talking about millions and millions of dollars. The better informed I am, the better votes I think I can make on behalf of our town. So whatever's been said in the press, if they misrepresented what I said, and it was online, so if anybody wants to read it, it's still there. I never said that I was authorized by the Budget Committee to conduct an investigation, period. Thank you.
Well, I would appreciate it that if you did whatever you're doing, that you leave the Budget Committee totally out of it.
Well, I said I am a member. I did not say that I was representing the Budget Committee. Again, I never said I was representing the Budget Committee.
Dave, I do have the quote here if you'd like to read it.
And I'm not going to spend all night on this.
No, but it's just, I'll take the part that we're concerned about. I'm not on a witch hunt here. I need to gather information so that the Budget Committee can make factual decisions on a budget. To me, that represents the Budget Committee.
Absolutely.
No.
Well, you said it's so the Budget Committee can make a factual
And
decision.
I just said that I would relay information that I had gathered to to the Budget Committee. As a sitting member, we break down into different committees on this, and we all look at different aspects of the budget. And I've decided that I wanted to look at that aspect of the budget. And I will be sharing the information that I've gathered. But I did not say that the Budget Committee took a vote and authorized me to do an investigation. It does not say that. So if you want to twist the words around to make it say that, you can't, because I did not say that.
I'll just read it one more time. I need to gather information so that the Budget Committee can make factual decisions on a budget.
And if you
That
read the rest of the
represents
letter,
yourself as a Budget Committee member.
That's right, and if you go on, it says that me,
doesn't matter.
I used I, not as a group.
But at first, all
Regardless.
right, at first you did, Joe, and then, again, going forward, please don't use the Budget Committee.
Well,
Do it on your own.
I am a member of the Budget Committee, I was elected by the people in town, and as I stated, I feel it's my obligation to know what I'm voting for.
Absolutely. I agree with you
So, I do
100%.
intend, as I have on this committee, on different things that I've done research on, like the roofs and the different aspects of the building repairs and things like that. I went to Public Works, I looked at Public Works, I talked about the trucks and different things that I've witnessed, and I had no problem with the council worrying about me going to Public Works and looking at a truck. The problem is that I criticized the council. I stepped on their toes.
I don't think that's correct, Joe. I think what's happened is there is an investigation going on by the council. I think it's our due diligence to stay away from that investigation and let them do their work.
You're interfering with an investigation, and you could compromise the investigation.
How am I
That is what we're
interfering with
saying.
I haven't disclosed any of the information
By
that I've
speaking,
received.
okay.
Okay.
And I won't be disclosing any information in public that I found, but I will share it with members of the Budget Committee as I shared it, what I've gathered in information with the town administrator.
Okay. Let's move on. Minutes from last week, I handed out. We're not going to vote on them tonight. We'll give you a week to look at them, and then we'll vote on them next week in case there's any changes, because there's a large document. So we'll vote on it next week.
If you do have any changes, just email me them, so that we're not going back and forth. Just email it, if something's...
Also handed out a piece of paper that was sent from Denise Charette on the Planning Department and salary analysis for 2011, 12, 13, and 14. You all have a copy of that. Okay. Does anyone else from the audience like to speak on anything? Yes.
Hi, my name's Susan Gill. I'm here to address the Budget Committee tonight on something I feel that needs to come before you do your final review. I started throwing myself into town business last year, and because my taxes, property taxes had increased 400%, well, it had basically quadrupled in the last 12 years, and I thought it was time to try and step up and see if there was something I could contribute to the town to just try and get things more affordable. So I started attending meetings. I was appointed to the Economic Development, and in that last year, I've been attending various commissions, learning about the town, coming to town council meetings, coming to the Budget Committee, trying to educate myself how this town operates and what I can do to contribute to helping get this town, I don't know, just having it be a better place in a lot of ways. So what I wanted to start with, what I wanted to speak to you about is the town planner. As I've been trying to gather information, I wanted to give you a little bit of the history. A lot of this is things that I'm learning along the way, but I think there's so much information that you've been presented throughout the course of the budget that some things get lost, some things never get presented. Things I've learned is that for 10 years, this town did have a town planner, but it was a volunteer. So for 10 years, the town benefited from having the work done at no cost to the town. Then a gentleman named Chris Spencer came in. I never met him, I never knew him, but usually I don't hear I hear very mixed reviews on them, I'll say that. And I think that left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths for whatever reasons. They felt like they were paying out a lot of money and they didn't get anything for that money. And that's just I guess that's what I've drawn from it. So people are now, some people are now to the point, like, why do we need a town planner? They never paid for one, and then they got one and paid a lot and felt like they got nothing. So, it's almost like, when you think about it, it's almost like renaming it to call it a community development coordinator. I think the town planner has just a really bad taste. People think of it as strip malls, commercial development only. And so what I wanted to do is, it's take a little bit of time, but hopefully not too much, is go through what things the town planner actually does.
Excuse me, we voted on a plan last.
We did.
The agenda.
I know,
It's
but
not, well, there is comment, and
and I have
we'll give her a
information.
couple of minutes.
Yeah.
But the former planner is not here to defend
No.
himself.
So the duties of the town planner include things like applications for residential and commercial review and preparing recommendations for the planning board, assisting the planning board to implement the comprehensive plan, assist the planning board with zoning ordinances and rewrites. The person will provide technical support for the planning board, zoning review, the town administrator, and town council. They will supervise and train any planning development staff. They're involved with the GIS mapping, along with the tax assessor. They do presentations and recommendations to boards and commissions as they're requested, assist the building with zoning issues and information. They serve as the administrative officer or assistant to the administrative officer in enforcement in land development and subdivision regulations, assist the town administrator with requests from town council regarding planning. They do grant searches and writing. They do cost management of grant projects. They attend town council, planning board, zoning review, economic development meetings. They develop and implement a department budget. They also follow any federal or state inquiries and respond and report to those. And they have to be up to date on any state law changes affecting towns on zoning, land use, and subdivision. The things I've realized is a lot of what the planning board does is land use. It's not just putting up buildings. It's how, all the different, parcels of land in town, how they have to be used. And I thought it was interesting to find out, because it seems like that's kind of the conduit for getting a lot of information in and out to the different people. So I said, what all departments and people does the town planner interact with? They interact with the town administrator, the history advisory board, the fire and police, the DPW, the town council, economic development, DOT, DEM, the building official, the tax assessor, the hazard mitigation update committee, the developers, contractors, appraisers, the Newport Chamber of Commerce, realtors.
That was all in the backup that we
Civil
received.
engineers, all right, architects, surveyors, lawyers, and property owners. Then I went through and found what the clerk duties are, and that wasn't described anywhere. So they answer that person is responsible to answer the phone and emails. The clerk could respond to about 25% of those. The town planner would need to respond to the other 75%. They do manage the files. They deal with the public record requests, any public that needs records for things.
Okay, you have 2 more minutes.
Okay, they handle accounts payable and receivable, record and transcribe minutes for meetings and the planning board agendas. They handle 20 to 100 phone calls a week. With their residential, this is the important thing I think people don't realize. 75% of the calls that they handle are related to residential. 15% are commercial and 10% are inter-office. It's not all just about commercial properties. They handle about 30 emails a day. The current salary of $20,000 is for 16 hours a week. Currently, she's working 20 to 22 hours a week. The clerk salary is for 22 and a half hours a week, and she's currently working 28 to 30 hours a week.
That's not true.
So you can do the math for what that is on an hourly. Then I looked at what other professional management
We're
salaries
gonna have to cut this off.
Yeah.
Everybody
it's-
else has had a chance to
It's-
speak.
And you had a chance, an opportunity last week, and you had an opportunity when we
I
were
felt like I
going through
came
the
away
planning
from
board.
that, and I wanted to give information to the group. A lot of people come and
We
talk with
voted on this already,
opinions.
and it's,
And so it's
I'm
not
just
gonna
letting
be
you speak.
reviewed.
It's not gonna change our point of view.
Nobody would even reconsider
I
the
can't.
vote
Just say two
based
things
on
to the
information. Because a lot of stuff has been made out of emotion
No,
and not
no,
out
no.
of information. Could I just tell you how the grants that have been performed by that office?
Yes.
All right. I'm just about done. I know there was a lot, but in the last 2 years, they've received,
I'm sorry, we're all done. This discussion has to stop.
Can I make just one suggestion?
Go ahead.
I mean, if the Budget Committee and the council, it's actually Mrs. Mello that's in charge of it, at the financial town hearing, which will be
May 1st.
May 1st. And that's a hearing on the budget, and if there are any other different budget proposals, but that's an ideal time to voice your opinion in a big public forum.
all right. I'm disappointed. I've listened to a lot of people comment, and to be cut off when I'm giving information, I'm disappointed.
We're sorry, it was information that was weeks ago. Yes?
I just have one thing to say to that lady, and that is that in 2012-2013 budget, there was money for a planner, but the town council did not hire one. I think you should direct your questions to them as to why they didn't do that if it was so important.
Okay, let's hopefully get off that subject. Page 12. Yeah. So we'll just... Okay,
And 12,
page 12,
do we do the fire salary?
fire salaries. We got
Yes?
March 10th. Everyone on March 10th.
Yes.
You don't have an extra one tonight, do you? I left it home.
You don't have one?
I'll make a motion for $2,253,541 for the fire department salaries.
Second.
Any discussion?
I'm
I
sorry,
have a
need
little
to
bit of
repeat it.
discussion.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
2253541.
It's a salary Chris, did you make that motion?
I addressed
Who made the
it.
motion?
I seconded. Laura made it, I seconded.
Wait,
Yes.
I made
Are you
it.
saying you don't have a
You can address it
copy?
if you want later. but
Yeah, I don't have a copy of that. I
I
was
can't speak for
After the-
you.
reviewing it at home and I left it at home.
Oh, I made it. Nancy,
As long as you're ready, George.
I'm working on the one labeled March 10th.
March 10th.
Submitted from the town
Here, ma'am, will you use
administrator.
this?
All right, can you just hold up a minute, then?
Sure.
You have someone
Yep.
else copies.
You make another one?
Yes,
Thank you.
the copy I have has some writing.
That's okay, I trust you.
Yeah, we're open for discussion, go ahead.
Okay, we ready? All right.
Yep.
Well, as I previously discussed, I have issues with the overtime. I realize that the council cut it back significantly, but it's just my opinion, based on the information I'd gathered, that we should further reduce that line. I understand that we have staffing issues this year, but I'll say again, based on the information, and I'm not going to disclose publicly because I was advised not to, but I just feel with the information that I've gathered, we could reduce that line. I don't believe that I'm going to receive the vote, so I'm not going to waste my time, but I'm going to say for further review that I think we should look at this a little bit further.
Okay. Alex?
I'd like to amend that to 3:30. I went up to talk to the chief today. The last group that was going to be hired, we all set to hire 3 of them. 2 of them didn't pass the background check. So we're starting all over. The chief believes that maybe if we had full staff, we should get to 280. But now you're starting to go into all the vacations. It's going to be overtime galore. Dave was up there with the chief, sat down, he saw what the overtime was doing. And the thing is, town council signed the contract. Not this poor town administrator, but the other town administrator signed the contract. You're gonna have to pay these guys if they work. Otherwise, there's gonna be unfair labor practices filed, and the only one that's gonna make money on this is gonna be Mr. Tykes going to court. And the guys are gonna all get paid, and we're gonna lose.
Okay.
Or,
So you made a motion,
You made a motion?
Alex?
I made a motion for the amount that
He
the...
amended the motion.
Is there a second?
Is there a second to that? No second to it. Okay, can we go back to the original?
Can I, just so that we're all aware of the numbers that we looked at, that Dave shared with us several weeks ago, with the overtime numbers and the past 5 years of numbers, just so that we're all aware, the council has proposed $280,000 for next year's budget, and going back in history for the past 5 years, starting in fiscal year '09, it's gone 154,683 to 258,793 to 361,592 to 182,706, with this current year, this past fiscal year, ending at 317,927. So I can't remember what that 5-year average was. But the notion it was that 280,000 was in line with the 5-year average. And that's how the council came up with that number.
And I believe one of the years that was his highest, he only had one person out, correct?
One person retired. That was fiscal year '11, was 361,592, and there was only one person.
And there was only one person out.
So
for
I
that year.
think it goes more with the hiring difficulties than it does with the number of people who retire.
Denise?
Laura, the 5-year average is 255,140.
Okay, so you did increase it from the 5-year average.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nancy.
Dave.
Page 12.
I have it, I think. Yes, yeah, I have it.
Well, I don't know. It's stifled. Yep, Alex?
To the town administrator, to the chair. If we run out of overtime money, what would be the plan to do for the town?
Can I say something?
Denise?
This is how it's been working. If we need overtime, it's because we don't have the complement of staff we need. So what we do is we transfer it from the salary account. Because you have to go with the fact, if we don't have enough men, then the salary account is high. So that's why we would use the majority of our overtime, except for vacations, you're right, Alex. So that's what we were looking at. If we don't have the complement of men we need, then the overtime is excessive, and we take from the salary account, like we have been.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at a budget with fully staffed,
Right. It's
fully staffed.
which we never are.
and we never are, so.
So, can I ask a question? Does it relate to that? And I don't care who answers it, whether it's you or the town administrator, but if you don't have the staff, I can understand that, but if you have the staff and you have somebody who's injured on duty who's actually being paid, and you have somebody who's out and is on family medical who's actually being paid, and you've got, other issues while staff are not being there, and you're paying them, that salary count is not surplus.
Exactly.
So it does create a problem.
If that would happen, but that has...
But you have right now, somebody family injured on duty, you have somebody on family medical. It's not like it hasn't happened in the past.
But we still have the salary account because we're down 3 to 4 men. So historically, we have never been full staff. It's never become a problem as of this moment.
Mr. Chairman, please.
Joe?
I'll just say that, in my opinion, the whole problem is not understaffing, vacations. There are other issues, and I think with a new town administrator and a fresh set of eyes looking at the situation, that perhaps we can reduce some of the overtime, and that's, I foresee that happening. And so I feel comfortable that with what's proposed is more than adequate.
Okay. I had a question on, I know we mentioned when we were going through this about a stipend that the chief was receiving for being
Oh, the EMS incentive.
PMS incentive,
He
is that
gets
what it
the
was?
cardiac stipend.
Why would the
Cardiac.
department head receive a
I
stipend?
agree, but the town administrator and the chief worked that out among themselves.
Is that in his contract?
No,
The town administrator at the time.
at the time, not the new one. No, it is not in this contract.
How much
The
is,
town administrator's answer to that was he forgot to put it in the contract, not this town administrator. It would be whatever cardiac gets paid per week, I think it's 40-something. Am I right?
It works out like $2,500 for the year.
$2,900 a year?
25.
25.
$2,500 a year?
So it's basically an oral contract, and my only question is, did the council agree to it after, that's what it is. So.
Frankly, I don't know if the other...
They don't have
I just
to.
found out about this
Okay.
recently.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware of it.
Okay, well, we'll have to look at that for the next contract. I don't,
My opinion is, Alex, I don't disagree with it. I think the number's too low, but I think your number's too high. And I don't know what to tell you, but it's, adding 50 grand to it is, I don't think the answer. But So we've made some significant cuts elsewhere, and, if this is what the 5-year average is, and this is what they're gonna have the new town administrator wrestle with and deal with, and like every other cut that we've said that everybody else didn't like, that council has the ability to make transfer monies if it becomes short, that this one would hold true, so. Well,
We
Okay.
felt this was a good number as we moved on.
any more discussion?
I just have a question.
There was no second.
There was no second.
Copies. That
There was-
wasn't a motion.
There was a motion.
It was a motion, but no second.
A motion with no second, I still have to record it.
Yep.
So Alex made a motion for
For
what?
3:30.
3:30.
To amend the motion
Right.
to make overtime 3:30.
Failed for lack of second.
Right.
I move the question.
Okay, so we're at 2253541. All in favor, 2253541, raise your hand. All those opposed? 2 opposed.
Two, just you. Did
I
you
would-
vote?
I voted yes.
Yep.
I'd move $360,250 for operations for the fire department.
Any discussion?
And I just note, for the record, my happiness about the council examining the fuel, oil, and tires across the board for all the departments this year. Considering the amount of work we did last year, they built on that and reduced it even further, so
Very good.
it makes me happy.
Okay. Okay, any other discussion? Okay, so we'll move to 613-791. All in favor?
I don't know, 360, 250.
360, 250.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, 360-250.
It's a little bit of an
That's-
increase.
that's
There you go.
That was the total fire department. 360-250. All in favor? Raise your hand. All opposed? Unanimous.
So the total is...
Total is 2613791.
I'd move 2614, 538 for police department salaries.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing no discussion. 2614-538, all in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous.
I'd move $136,100 for general contractual mandated expenses for the police department.
Second.
Okay, we have a second on 136-100. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor of 136-100, raise your hand. Unanimous. Thank you.
I'd move $222,000 for the operations of the police department.
Second.
Seconded. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion. 222-000. All in favor, raise your hand.
That's a nice number.
Unanimous.
I'd move $71,016 for the animal control section of the police department, I guess.
Second.
Discussion.
Discussion. Joe?
No, I brought this up earlier, and I realized that we're under contract for one more year, but I thought that I want to note that while we're paying $28,500 for animal shelter, Little Compton is paying $5,000 a year. So I'm hoping next year that we can see something a little less in this budget. I just find that to be excessive.
Okay, and that was discussed with the police chief.
May I just
Inlet. Barb?
clarify for those who may not know what that difference is due to, is that, if I'm not mistaken, we rent how many cages?
6.
6, and Little Compton just pays for it when they need it.
Correct.
That's why there's that large difference. It's not as if they have the same service and are paying that much less.
Actually, they use their police department as dog officers, which puts more people on the street, including on weekends.
Right, I just
So
want to
they
make...
have actually a better service than we do in Little Compton.
I'm not talking about the quality or that aspect of the service. For those who may think that Little Compton is paying the vet for the same thing that we're paying the vet for, it's not true.
No, I'll be clear, I was talking about that we gave a contract
Right.
where we probably shouldn't have.
Okay, Mr. Lambert?
I just wanted to make a suggestion to Joe. We recognize that all of this is under contract. Mrs. Pelletier and I have been working for months, gathering figures from throughout Rhode Island. If Joe needs numbers from any town in the state of Rhode Island, I can assure you, Joe, we have the numbers.
I actually have
We
those.
are actually looking for facilities that might accommodate us when this contract is...
I've been provided with the same information. I've had numerous conversations with Ms. Pelletier, she's done a lot of work for the town.
You are free, Joe, and I mean this quite sincerely, to join Mrs. Pelletier and I as we go over these numbers and look into alternatives for the current contract. It's really not that easy. There's not a lot of people that want to take in, let's say, last year, 123 dogs, which is what we took in last year, or maybe 25 cats, which I think is what we took in. It's not really, Joe, that easy a job to find people to take care of these animals while we're looking for their owners.
Can I
Oh,
continue,
It comes
please?
down to-
So it's also not very fair to compare Little Compton to Tiverton. When you have 3,000 people live down there year-round, you got 18,000 people live here year-round. It's completely not apples and apples. And to put that out there for the public to say, well, simply because they pay $5,000, doesn't necessarily make it the same. It's nowhere near the same.
Can I continue, please? When I compared the numbers, Little Compton does pick up a lot of dogs, because a lot of people dump their dogs out there for some reason, or there's a lot of strays. They also have a different policy than we do. Some departments actually don't just run the dog straight to the pound. They return the dog to the owner, even if it takes several hours. They don't take the dog straight to the pound. They return it to the owner, give the owner a warning, or if the only reason they take them to the pound is they can't contact the owner or there's no identification on the dog. A change in policy would change how much we spend to deal with the dog problem. If they took it back to the owners were warned and then fined a second time, for letting their dogs run free, I think we would see a change versus running the dog straight over to the pound.
And I think that was discussed, Joe, when we talked to the
Well, I
police
just wanted to
chief.
explain what I've been hearing and why I'm objecting to paying
And,
this much.
and the answer to that was most of the dogs, and I forgot what percentage was, but it was quite high. The dogs are returned before a day.
The average dog
From the pound.
in Tiverton is returned to its owner within 1.5 to 2 days.
1.5 to 2
There are
days.
very, very few exceptions to that.
Right.
The real issue is
It's
the
the
cats.
Right.
Feral cats that we catch because they're kittens, and they're born in July and August, so they're not adverse to human beings at that point. That becomes our real problem, getting them set up for adoption. And we do have some dogs, small, very small number, as Joe says, that we have to put up, dogs that have to be put up for adoption. I agree with Joe that this is a whole issue that has to be looked at. That's why we invite Joe to join us if he has any interest in coming up with some alternative plan.
Okay, so we'll move 71016. Any more discussion? All in favor, 71016? Unanimous. Nancy?
So the total for police department didn't change at $3,043,654.
Correct. Do you have
So-
that, Nance?
So I would move for the Harbor Coastal Management Commission, $2,900.
Second,
It's on page
page
15.
15, top of.
Going backwards here.
Sorry, I got it on backwards, too. Okay, second, any
I'm
discussion?
sorry, can you repeat the number?
$2,900.
Any discussion? See no discussion? $2,900, all in favor? Unanimous.
I'd move $23,410 for the harbor master.
Second.
I'd like to amend that.
I knew you would. Because I just missed it. Oh, actually, it's gone.
Okay,
Well,
I missed something else, though. Go
I'd
ahead.
like to amend it to $17,725, which was last year's total.
and Joe, where are you taking that out of?
2013-14 budget.
What line item?
Which
No,
line
What he's saying is the
Harbor
same, is the...
So you're
line
going,
items stay
okay.
the same
Yeah, but
as
which
the
one?
current budget.
So you're taking out the assistant, you're
No, we should what you're taking
You gotta say where it's coming out of.
So you're taking out the assistant.
taking out the assistant, Joe, right? Is that what you're doing?
Pretty much looking at what we did last year. I mean, I'll leave it up, you know, I understand the council has a way to adjust the budget, so.
So is it your recommendation to leave the line items the same as the current year? 5,900, 10,525, 1,300? That's what they're asking.
I'm suggesting that the bottom line number,
Well, that's not, they need to know the line items, Joe.
We're-
You got it?
Yeah,
then I'm suggesting that we repeat last year's budget.
Okay.
Okay, so that would be 5,000 for salaries, 900 road operations, 10,525 communication device, 1,000 for uniform clothing, and 300 for, I'm sorry, 300 for uniform clothing, communication devices, 1,000. And boat
I'll second that
operations,
motion.
525.
You did.
Any more discussion on that one? All in favor of Joe 17,725, raise your hand. All opposed? Laura?
yeah, I'm opposed.
I'd like to make a motion to reduce it to 21,410,
I'll second.
taking 2,000 out of boat operations. This is a vehicle that was purchased with, so we were told, with twin engines, that wasn't going to cost us a whole bunch of money, and we were going to save money with this type of boat, and all of a sudden, it's gone from 10.5 to 14.60. So I would take 2,000 out of boat operations,
Second.
making that 12,060.
Tell me if I'm remembering correctly about, wasn't that jump due to a gift given last year for gas?
Someone did give us a gift of
That the
gas.
reason they were able to operate at that level last year was because someone gave a gift of gas?
You're correct.
I don't know, just me personally, I think this is such a pittance to give this department, considering how important water is and the river is to the life of the town, and to bring any kind of economic development. It's one of our biggest assets, and they ask for so little. I'm not comfortable cutting them every year.
Can I respond, please?
Joe?
Well, going back historically, and I've said this before, the charge of the harbor master was to maintain the mooring field. It's not a police force. I realize, they're out there in the busy time, and if there's somebody who's in need, they're there. But bottom line is, the town right now is having a hard time financially, and we can't afford to expand different operations that, in my opinion, non-essential. So I would support Dave's motion.
Okay, any other discussion?
I have one question, and I don't know who to direct it to. I would assume the town administrator, but I know this is new for him. On the salary accounts, where we have the assistants, and we're plugging in the same account number. It's not a separate, it's not a distinctive account number for an assistant. So, in my mind, it could be, you could just pay the harbor master for that kind of money.
You can change that.
We can, she'll change that to me.
So-
That's no problem, we've done that with other accounts.
With
I
that,
didn't know the site.
with that exception, that they change that account to reflect the assistants, I have no objection to your motion and the second that's been placed.
Okay, any other discussion? No? All in favor of the 21,410, correct? 21,410.
The motion is 2,000 off the
2,000
Right.
off.
Out
Okay.
of boat operations.
12,060.
Yep.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alex, you voting?
Yeah.
7. Opposed? 1.
Now, wait a minute.
No, I was voting for it.
Okay.
You did.
One
That's
opposed.
8 to,
1 opposed.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
so what happens it wasn't incorporated into your motion, the account number, the fact that it's the same, so I assume that while not in the motion, the treasurer will
Change the number.
change it?
Yes.
I would take it that way.
it's an oversight, it's not.
No, I understand, but,
Wait, that 2,000 came out of the boat operations,
Yes.
Out
right?
of boat operations, it wasn't the assistants.
Yeah,
That is
yeah, okay, that got me confused.
So that account number will be changed, and we'll take it on
We
Nancy's
can have
rate.
that changed. Mr.
thank you.
Okay.
I would move 155,000 for streetlights.
Let's get a second.
Second.
Any discussion on streetlights? All in favor of 155? Raise your hand. Unanimous?
No, I'm opposed.
Oh, 1 opposed?
And who seconded it? I'm sorry. Who seconded the motion? Anybody second that motion? I'm sorry. I didn't catch it.
Alex?
Chris made it.
I know I made it, but I heard it. I don't know who said it, but.
Okay, I just didn't look up fast enough.
And 1 opposed.
Yep, 8 to 1.
I move $1,500 for hydrant services.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Jane?
Laura?
Discussion? Seeing no discussion?
I just,
Oh, go ahead, Joe.
1 second, please.
Go ahead.
We've talked about this years past, that there are people who don't get serviced by hydrants, and we're asking them to pay for maintenance for a water district that they're not in. Becoming difficult for me to vote for this, so I just want to consider that perhaps in the future, maybe we need to eliminate this line from our budget.
I'd like to respond to that.
Go ahead.
It's, that these hydrants, and it has been a nature of history that we've talked about this ad nauseum year in, year out. The hydrants that protect the municipal services, not the water department. They're there to effectuate, put hydrants in front of schools, in front of the town hall, in front of the library, in front of municipal services. So in order to maintain those, and that's, believe me, I've had the argument year after year, and Joe has to, because we've gone battle, Joe would have his way to have 30,000 to take care of the ones that they should be taking care of, because it's a service for all the community. And I agree that, but at some point in time, we've, as a community, have agreed to at least take care of those that affect the municipal services. To put, wherever they are in front of municipal services. And that's what this pays for. It doesn't help subsidize the water department. The water department doesn't have to put a hydrant there. We don't have to have a hydrant out here to take care of this building. But because there is one there, we can take care of this. So that's what it's there for.
But there's also a meter on this building.
There's a domestic water meter on it.
Yeah, that is it.
It's not a hydrant meter.
So the town does pay for the service.
Yeah.
For this, for the building.
I'm just saying.
But they don't pay a tax. Like I pay a tax in North Tiverton. That pays for all the other hydrants, the hydrants around my house.
Oh, the town's exempt.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, so we'll move 1,500, all in favor? Unanimous?
Abstain.
One abstention.
Okay, Nancy, that makes the total for protection to persons and property 5,838,255?
Yes.
Yes.
2,000.
Maintenance.
Just before I get any further.
Laura Epke wants to, she called me. She wants to talk about it.
Fill out if you're abstaining. Oh, you didn't read it, you just abstained, I'm sorry, okay.
480.
Just abstained.
Let's see what she comes up with. We can go from there. Library services.
I would move for discussion purposes, $506,706.
Second.
Okay, discussion.
I'd like to amend that to 499,851.
I'll second that motion.
851?
499,851.
Okay.
I did call Mr. Coy. Coyer. I left him a message, telling him that we were going to be looking at library tonight. Apparently he's not here.
Discussion?
You did get a second, correct?
Yes.
Joseph?
Okay.
Well,
Joe?
just that I attended all of the hearings for the new library, and one of the points that I made a note of is that we were told that expenses, because the building was so green and energy efficient, that expenses would not be going up. There'd be no additional staff, and that we wouldn't see a sharp increase in the amount needed, as a grant from the town.
Here's the library budget.
Bottom line is, I don't know if I can support more than we appropriated last year. So,
Can I
Laura?
explain my motion? I think you should have gotten from the clerk the revised request from the library. They had revised their health care. So their request was for $504,851. That's where the 851 comes from in my motion. And my proposal is to reduce that request by 5,000. If you use their new request, 504,851, that's over a 9.25% increase. And from the discussion we had with the library folks the other night, a couple of weeks ago, they have put additional maintenance costs in the budget for half of the year for the expected increase in utilities and operating costs because of the increased size of the building. They also put in their budget increases for programs, events, new money for multimedia, which I'm certainly not opposed to having them, schedule and have new events. I just think with the money that the town is putting out for the increased costs and maintenance and the cost of the bond, that they need to work within their budget to come up with different ways to pay for those items. So that's where my 5,000 comes from, which reduces it to still over an 8% increase, which is still really hefty.
I have a question, Laura. I don't know if you can answer it. because I don't have the details. I know I missed a few meetings this year, but on the grant and aid, the monies that they received from the state, did that go up on their budget proposal?
No.
So I don't understand why that formulary hasn't increased, because I thought it was predicated on the number of expenses that we had, and it's a state formulary, so whatever we,
Gosh, I don't know, and I didn't ask.
no, it's not based on population, it's based on expenses, it's a formulary, and it always has been. So I'm wondering why that number didn't go up, especially if they're projecting higher expenditures.
Do you want to hold off on
I would
it?
prefer to hold off if we can,
And get-
I'll try to
and
reach out
ask-
to them to see if we can get an answer or not, but that
Well,
should have an impact on what the bottom line is.
I wouldn't mind holding off either, because I did have, I mean, I had other questions about using the half a year when I started thinking about the,
Well, I have the same question, because that's going to generate another increase in the next year, because it's going to be another full year instead of 6 months worth of increase.
well, yes, it's going to be that, but I also had questioned the timing of it according, if you try and put it in the context of when the bond is coming online, and I think it would be worth asking, see if they could come next week, and they can help us walk through some of these things.
So is it appropriate to table something that we have a motion and a second for already?
Or do I
Well, we
withdraw
can
it?
withdraw the motion.
I can withdraw my
Just
amendment.
withdraw.
I'll withdraw my amendment.
Just one more question. I noticed on the town website that they have an advertisement, I believe it's for a event coordinator, or, geez, I should have wrote it down, but I noticed they're advertising for a position at the library. I'd like to know if that's a new position, because that was something else that was represented to the town, that there would be no additional hires.
Did the library come before the committee?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, no, they have no new additional staff. I mean, they may be,
For
well, they may be able to pay for it out of their own funds.
Well, it might also be someone who left. We don't know that.
That's why I wanted to ask the question.
Okay.
I would like to know
Well,
if it's a
we'll
new
invite them
hire.
to next week's meeting, and I think we'll get
Okay.
some answers.
Okay, I'll withdraw my amendment. Okay.
I don't know who seconded it.
That was Joe Bento? So that's withdrawn.
I will withdraw my motion, and I don't know who made the second, so.
Okay, what am I going to, color am I going to make this red?
Just
Yellow.
leave the number that's in there.
Yes, but what color?
Yes.
I'll make it yellow.
Yellow.
Defer to next week.
First things first.
I would move for the Health Human Service Organization, 16,900 in total, as they're represented by the town administrator.
Second,
Can I ask some questions on
Any
this?
discussion? Yeah?
This was one of the first items. We went through these at our very first meeting in January. Parents as teachers is new on here. Can I ask someone to explain what that is?
Could I just say that my daughter takes her little son there, and it's a wonderful program.
I'm not doubting, I just
Small
don't know
amount.
anything about the program.
I can
If-
tell you about it.
Okay.
I'm there every week, actually. Parent as Teachers is a program that they run at the, what school is that? Pecasset School. They run it on Monday mornings from 9:30 to 11.
Okay,
And what it is any child from newborn to 5 years old, 6 years old. Some kids go there they go to kindergarten in the afternoon, and it's an hour-and-a-half program where they just interact with each other, and their funding is very short. So I actually recommended this $500
okay.
for the parents, teachers.
And can I make
It was
just,
funded by, I think the schools years ago, but did the schools fund it years ago, Sally?
Prevention Coalition funds part of it, there's a legislative grant for it, but it's a community program, so it's 0 to 5.
Just for clarity, Dave, and I don't want anybody to get the wrong impression, you're not being paid by this $500 at all.
No.
Well, you put it out there that you're there every Monday.
I do it with my granddaughter.
I just don't want anybody to think somehow that this is for you.
I don't get paid. My daughter doesn't even pay me to babysit.
I assume that, but I just,
that wouldn't even cover the baby.
people at home may not understand that, so I just wanted to get it on the record.
okay, and I had also
Actually, Bristol, theirs is $25,000
Wow.
for parents,
The
teachers.
COSI program pays for Bristol, Warren, Newport, Middletown, those towns.
I just think it's a great-
Look into that.
I think it's a great program that we have, and any other questions?
Yes, and you can just slap my hand if no one else is interested in this.
Nope.
A couple of years ago, we made a change to this section to break out library services, have health and human service organizations as a category, and then the Eastern Rhode Island Conservation, the Rhode Island Cooperative Extension, and the Wildlife Rehabilitators fell outside of the health and human service organizations. So this is an entirely a formatting thing that makes sense to me. It may not make sense to other people, but I personally would like to break out. It's not going to change the numbers any. I would like to break out the Conservation District and the Cooperative Extension and the Wildlife Rehabilitators. And I had a title for, I had Agricultural Conservation Services for the district and the cooperative, and then I had, for lack of anything else, other for wildlife rehabilitators.
So you're going to separate?
Just so that it makes,
Laura, they were separated, and then the treasurer, you can see they're using the same,
I understand why, yes.
same numbers, so she requested.
Right,
them
I
to be
understand.
back together, because they're all,
Well, either we should get rid of the health and human service organizations and just have them all as individual grants, or we should categorize them in buckets that make sense. To me, the buckets make sense. Maybe they don't make sense to other people.
Okay. So
Discussion.
what's your recommend?
sorry.
Well, we can talk about it next week, because I'll have the projector and you'll be able to see. Does that make sense?
Joe?
Yeah, well, I just wanted to say, I had done a little research into the Newport County Mental Health Center and found out that they receive a rather large state grant. They accept insurance through Medicare, Medicaid, Right Care, and I guess Blue Cross Blue Shield and everything else. I mean, they're a well-paid organization. Well, I realize it's only $2,500. I just feel that the town could use the money a little bit more. So I wanted to amend the motion, but if we're going to table this until next week, I guess I'll wait until next week.
Well, no, there's a motion for the total,
Yep.
16,900.
You were just going to change the line?
I'm just changing how it looks.
Well, I'm at 14,400. That's my motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Discussion?
Yeah, I have some discussion because we've supported this entity for as long as I've been on this committee. And they've always gotten federal grants, and they've always gotten Medicaid reimbursement, and they've always had a litany of things that they get other funding for, to quite a substantial number, well above the $2,500 that we support. I think it's prudent for us to help support those who are in need, and that this does help that their grants do not subsidize everything, all their expenses, and they do rely on the monies that we give as communities, whether it's Portsmouth, Bristol, Tiverton, Little Compton, any of us, they have always given monies, and we've cut this back, what used to be $5,000 years ago. Simply because they get a federal grant doesn't mean that they're
It's well beyond a
Golden
federal
parachute.
grant. They're supported by insurance companies.
Yes, they are.
People have insurance when they're
There are
not
also
insured.
people in this
they
town who
also
don't
receive-
have insurance.
And this, if
Well,
I'm,
believe it or not, the state picks up the tab for all of that. Bottom line is, we have a lot of needs in this town. I mean, this is a small amount, but when you start adding up the pennies,
You do, but you're hurting the worst of the worst right there. These are the people who
we're not hurting
absolutely
them with a
desperately
little
need help.
$2,500 is probably, not even a pence to them compared to what they bring in. I mean, the bottom line is, if we don't look at each line item and try to reduce each line item a little bit, we're not going to be able to.
Well, for the
taxes down in
$16,900
this
that we have here for social services, the pittance to take care of the problems that people in this community have that are poor and poverty-stricken. I really think that that's uncalled for, that we take anything from this.
Well,
But
and-
that's, it's a difference of opinion. I applaud your
Well, you
candor,
didn't
but-
see me going after, I've looked actually at several of these, and there's some that I would probably support giving a little bit more. In fact, visiting nurse,
Well, the other real reason why
East Bay Community Action, I would support taking the money and putting down at East
Well-
Bay Community Action, because they actually are in dire need, whereas the Newport County Mental Health Center, I mean, I've actually seen some of the salaries over there, they're doing very well.
Okay?
Can I
Mr. Chair,
just-
just for clarification,
Yep.
Jim, I have your motion was 14.9,
14.5.
it's 14.5, okay, because I was going to say that would match up to the full amount, okay.
No, 14, 14.4.
14.4?
14.4.
Yeah, that's what I have.
It takes the
Okay.
2,500.
Yeah.
That takes the
Sorry.
2,500
14.
out.
I just wanted to note, for the record, that these folks did come in this year, and as do all the other grant people, they visited us, and they gave us information on the number of Tiverton residents that utilized their service. And I would agree with Mr. Cotta.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor for 14.4, and it was seconded. All in favor of 14.4? All opposed? Go back to the main motion. Someone move 16.9?
I did.
Okay, it was seconded?
Yep.
Okay. All in favor of 16.9? Opposed? Joe, one opposed.
All right, and then that total we can deal with when we,
Reformat.
Still the
Right.
same, 523, didn't change. 'cause-
right, but we haven't approved the library yet, so
Right, so it's still the same on here.
I'm there, correct.
Okay, next. Public Works?
I'd move 591,389 for the salaries, salary accounts for the Public Works Department.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing no discussion? 591,389, all in favor? Unanimous.
I'd move $636,950 for the operations under the Department of Public Works.
Discussion.
Joe?
Excuse me.
It seems that I heard that we ran short under the snow removal contract service. I'm just wondering, are we going to make it if we have another winter next year like this? I mean, do we want to?
It's the gamble we do every year.
But, I mean, I would agree, we've cut the contingency, we've cut everything else. I mean, snowplow operations are, vital to this town, I mean, for, as you guys always talk about, emergency service as well, so. I'll leave it up to committee, but I'm wondering if we might want to bump that up a little bit.
It's already a 24% increase in their bottom line total. It's a 73% increase in paving.
Yeah, but just to make clear, though, Laura, the bulk of that is in paving. So that's not fair to Joe to say that, he's got a snow removal service at $60,500,
True.
and it didn't go up a dime. I don't
Not
care what
10.
the increase is, it didn't affect his line item.
Did it go up, or did it stay the
It
same?
stayed the
Still the
same.
same, all the way across.
Oh, I'm looking at the wrong one.
The bulk of the money went into paving, which is, we've all been crying to put more money in
Which
paving.
it should, we shouldn't be taking money out of payment.
Can I ask a question if anybody knows the answer to?
Go ahead.
They took out of paving, I guess, the line painting and the guardrails, and they've got it new, separate.
Yeah.
Yeah, they separated it out.
How much is a guardrail? I mean, how, do you think they go through $5,000 worth of guardrails in a
Oh,
year?
Yes,
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know.
yeah, it's like traffic signs, they're just stupidly expensive. And I should correct myself.
Pretty deer around.
Yeah, that paving is probably not up, well,
Between drainage and paving, it's $105,000 increase.
yeah, I think the only fair way to look, yeah, that's the only fair way to look at it, is to add them
Yeah,
together.
13,
because-
14, and 14, 15.
Right, we should just note, for those that aren't aware, that this is drainage and paving accounts are, they used to be one total account, but appear as two separate lines. And for next year's budget, the new treasurer has broken them out into two actually separate accounts so that we'll be able to track the finances in both. That's the
Okay.
resolution, that's different.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, we still talking on this.
Yeah.
On the paving program, under what the town administrator recommended, 225,000. What the department had asked for was 300,000. We're gonna make any dent into paving, boy, we're gonna throw money into it.
I think it's gonna take a lot more than $75,000. 225 isn't gonna get you much done either.
No.
See, years ago, we used to do 400,000, but times are tough out. I mean, I know, I go back and put the pieces out my street every day, you know, yeah.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Right. Well, just to note that, Alex, I guess it was what, the figure we were given by the Public Works Director was, we need about $8 million
Yeah, that's just a start.
to pave. That didn't include drainage and reconstruction of culverts and things like that. I think I'm gonna amend adding $20,000 to snow removal private contractor, which would bring us up to 656,950.
We have a second. Okay, any discussion on that? 656,950.
The only thing I would say is, like I said, twofold. One, we could have another bad winter. We ran short this year. Secondly, while it may not be popular, it actually helps to cut down on overtime with the regular public works people.
Okay, we have a motion, second, any other discussion?
Just as a note,
Could you come up to the
Yeah,
microphone,
sure.
please?
The 5-year average for snow removal was $43,000. The most we've ever spent, besides this year, was last year was $55,000. Years prior to that was 30, 18, 52. So, the most we've ever spent was about 55.
So if we have a good year, we'll be back down. If we have a bad year...
Bad year,
we'll back up.
but just...
We can't
And this was-
forecast that far
abnormal,
ahead.
But this was very abnormal
Yeah.
to
We'll have
go
to call John Giossi and
this month.
see if we can get...
Well, I would also add that we would actually be able to use more private vendors, again, saving on overtime.
Okay, so we had a motion and a second. 656,950. All in favor, 656,950. Raise your hand. One. All opposed. Okay, back to the main motion. 636,950. All in favor. Unanimous.
Okay, so then the department salaries and operations are 1,228,339.
Correct.
I'd move 25,000 for stormwater management 2 for discussion.
Second.
And if I'm not mistaken, this large increase was because of issues with runoff and pollution getting into the river and having to use the infamous camera, right?
Yeah, they're only going to buy and then
Okay.
give away and lease or whatever.
Yeah. That's the reason why I wanted for discussion. But
So we moved 25, we had a second discussion on stormwater management.
as long as you people are all fine with buying something and leasing it back to yourself, it's fine with me. But I didn't get that at all.
Denise, could you step up?
You really didn't get that?
No, can you explain to us just, I mean, and it helps for the public too, if someone could just explain this increase again from at the mic, because
If it's an asset that the town owns, and we're buying for the Department of Public Works, why would we give it to a sewer commission only to lease it back after we bought it? It doesn't make sense to me.
Because what I think I understood was because in the long run, the sewer commission will be the one to use it.
Yeah, well, then they should pay for it. Really, they should lease it from us. We should buy it, and they should lease it from us. There should be a revenue generator to us, and those who have sewers in the sewering district should be paying the sewer commission to rent it from the Department of Public Works. Why would I go buy an asset, give it to somebody else so I can lease it back? It doesn't make sense to me.
I have to agree with you, that was a little confusing to me too, more than a little, actually. But what he was trying to say was in the long run, it's for them. He just, I know.
Okay, all right. I love it, my daughter would love to have a house, I might as well go buy it for her, maybe she'll let me live there someday.
That's what I was gonna say, she rents it.
I don't know, it just doesn't make sense to me.
He explained it over and over again, and
There's a piece of the puzzle missing. Somehow the sewer commission, which is a privately funded entity, I mean, we do subsidize it through fees and other things in town from taxpayers that have sewing services, I get all that. But why are we just giving it to them? Why are we buying brand new vehicles and giving those to them, and maybe we can lease those back from the town when we need them? Us paying for it and giving it to them only doesn't make sense why we have to lease it back if we bought it to start with.
for some reason, he wanted them to buy it. And it wasn't clear why. I do agree with you.
Well, I'm just confused by it.
It wasn't really clear.
Well, I am not opposed to buying it, and this is the right account, well, and the other thing, it should be in a capital account, it really shouldn't be here. But the town Department of Public Works should own it as an asset. If they want to lease it out, I don't have any problem with them leasing it out.
Anyone else have any comment?
Yes,
Joe?
well, I also object to purchasing this equipment. The town, it's not I kind of object to the whole stormwater situation where the state is mandating we do things that are really, this should be under state purview, but I'm going to amend the motion to $7,000, which was what we budgeted for last year.
Second that motion.
Okay, any discussion on the $7,000?
do we know what the cost of, is the entire increase for the cost of this camera?
I think it
was $10,000.
That's what I thought.
There are a lot of other expenses that go with dealing with the whole Randolph Avenue, the sewering issues and drainage issues that are leaching out into the bay. That is in fact a town responsibility. It is not the sewer commission's responsibility to deal with that. It is our responsibility because we don't have sewers there. We are the ones leaching into that bay.
Well, no.
Yeah.
The town as a whole is not leaching into the bay. It is individual owners whose septic systems have failed, and we've appointed a commission to go out and deal with those issues.
In the meantime, it's going through our drainage, which is our problem.
Well, then we should be moving on the homeowners to get them to repair the
And we
problems.
need some monies in stormwater too to deal with that. It's not on
The
site.
sewer district should deal with it.
It's not a sewing district because there's no sewers there, Joe.
No, I'm talking, bottom line,
It's stormwater.
It is absolutely stormwater in those areas. There is no sewers there.
well, the claim was that E. coli and dish
Right,
detergents
but
and things like that is
it's
showing
going
up.
into an infrastructure that was created by the town. It is a drainage system that has all the stuff that you're talking about.
Yeah.
And I agree, it's leaching from wherever. But they need tools and resources to ascertain where it's coming from.
Yeah.
They're just not gonna get it by doing their normal annual stuff.
I can't say that in other areas, they found that it was as people were walking their dogs and dogs were dropping waste, that it was actually from animals and not as much from homes. So the
It's
bottom,
also pavement runoff and fertilizer runoff, and
Yeah.
it's all of the runoff.
so we're chasing homeowners.
Yeah.
I made my motion.
I would just convey the information that I know about the situation, which is pretty much what you've said is we have illicit discharges into our municipal stormwater delivery system, which delivers the stormwater from the street level down to the river. And in order to find those illicit discharges, we have to
Expend some money
to investigate where those are, and we find 3 or 4 every year.
Right.
And then we can put our police powers into addressing those issues and those failed septic systems. But ultimately, certainly it's our responsibility because it's going into our catch basins and our stormwater detention systems.
So the hope is that if we need to expend monies to discover the source of these problems, and the money that we are spending, some of this additional money, is on this camera.
Correct.
And the hope is that if this line item is approved as requested at $25,000, that the council might investigate the possibility of DPW retaining ownership of the camera and leasing it at some rate to the sewer commission.
I'll call Steve Bellucci tomorrow and see if
I
that can
don't
be
forget what the
explained
number was.
better to me.
Okay.
And I'll bring it
Essentially, the conversation I've had with Steve was essentially that we could either buy a secondhand unit or we could pay someone to operate it, whatever the amount of times to find this illicit discharge, and in the long run, we spend a whole heck of a lot more money, and we don't have a camera, an asset at the end of the day. So certainly, we can work with DPW to come to an agreement of who maintains ownership of the asset, and who. That's obviously something we'll deal with, but.
My preference is if we're going to buy it, we own it, we lease it to the sewer commission.
I think that sounds like a reasonable. We've found the illicit discharges we can by kind of going like this and,
And the sewer commission will still need it at some point in time, and I have no issue with the
Yeah.
fact that they would need it periodically.
Yeah.
So then
But-
if you make money.
Right. I'm not in it to look to make money, but I just can't see buying it and then paying a lease to get it back.
It wasn't clear to me either, and I'll speak of it, we'll bring it up in front of the council.
I'm fine with the number. I just think that we need to make note that next year that a requisite number for that acquisition needs to come out of this account. Unless they can demonstrate there's other needs or other higher generated, other
Right.
costs that would substantiate the 25 grand.
Okay, so we have a motion for 7,000.
So I just want to understand, what we're talking about is an unfunded state mandate. We've had a couple of times a year where there were tests done on where it found, so we're going to buy a camera to go through pipes, and the fact of the matter is, the problem is probably that it's traveling across somebody's yard, down the street, and then into the sewer. I mean, we're acting like we're going to go through these pipes, and we're going to find somebody illegally tied a pipe into a manhole, which is not what we're going to find. Well, the bottom line is, when a septic system fails, it generally runs across the yard. Everybody's seen where you drive by somebody's yard, and the yard's all wet, and it stinks, and it runs out into the road and down to a manhole. What is a camera going to do for that? Most of that could be identified by simply, most neighbors call up and just identify that their neighbor hasn't pumped their sewer or something, and it's running out into the road. That's how we found most of these. I cannot support this, because this is nothing more than an unfunded state mandate forcing the taxpayers in this town to make expensive purchases that are really not even needed.
I have 2 short points. The first is we have done what you've just suggested, Joe, and we're at the point where we can't do the sniff test anymore to find illicit discharges, and we still have illicit discharges. I'm not a scientist that deals with this kind of business, and so I have no expertise, much like anybody else here has no expertise, but the people that do have the expertise have advised us that this is the way to go. Ultimately, we are, I suppose you could say, as a municipality, enabling the discharge of sewerage and other, ground contaminants into the Secundit River, which goes into the Atlantic Ocean. And I don't know how we shirk that responsibility by not addressing what is ultimately additionally $18,000 to potentially protect ourselves from what we all know is happening, which is we're dumping sewerage into the Secundit River.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, we've got a motion and a second for 7,000. All in favor of the 7,000, raise your hand. All opposed? One abstention? Okay, we'll go back to the main motion of 25,000. All in favor of 25,000, raise your hand. All opposed?
I'd move 20,000 for on-site wastewater management.
I'll second it for discussion.
Discussion? Seeing none? All in favor of 20,000, raise your hand. Opposed?
I'd move 606,000 for rubbish recycling collection, which used to be called scavenger or something or other years ago. What was it used to be called?
Scavenger.
There used to be a name that we used to call this thing years ago. I feel it.
Okay, any discussion on the 606? Seeing none, all in favor of 606, raise your hand. Unanimous. Landfill operations.
$220,755 I'd move.
Second.
Any discussion?
The propane?
That was for
They need heat
the,
for the
Right.
guys in the container.
Right.
the shed.
And the increase in the cover?
Because there is none up there.
Because we have to buy it, we have to.
Yeah, there's none up there right now.
So we have to buy it this year, is that what he
Yeah,
said?
over the
I
last
can't
2 years,
remember.
he's got a number of donations, and this year he doesn't have any.
Joe, do you remember what he said, what his,
I'm
what
sorry.
he's, the cover, the landfill cover, do you remember what, Steve?
He used to get some of the.
Yeah,
diesel
we're
and
buying it now because we're not getting it free.
Oh,
There's not enough going on in town to generate any, we used to allow, I guess, contractors. to go out there and dump it.
construction,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay, we have a motion for 220,755. All in favor of 220,755, raise your hand. Unanimous.
I move 92,162 for building maintenance.
Second? Second for discussion? Any discussion?
Tool replacement, it was,
Tools?
the head request was 500 and the town council wants to give 2,000, is that?
Because the last fellow who left took, there was a, nobody really knew who owned what tools. Bobby did, and I will say I do know Bobby, he did buy a lot of tools on his own, but there was no accounting of what the tools were, there was no inventory of what the tools are. It is what it is, whoever comes in is gonna need to have some tools. They're just, it is, unfortunately,
Is there gonna be
small
a change
purchases
in-
of under
is there gonna be a
$50 or.
change in how they're gonna oversee that, or, I mean, if we're just gonna throw money away again?
Well,
That's,
There'll be an inventory of the items we've discussed.
I would assume that there'll be some better accounting of it.
Matt's coming up.
That account should actually be called tool acquisition this year.
Tool acquisition.
Well, you don't know, because you might have the same issue next year. You don't know what you're gonna need,
Matt?
Just to the more general point that Mrs. Odell is making, these employees, we've proposed to the union, they go back to DPW, they clock their time using all the town's existing systems that are utilized at DPW, and we'll start taking inventory of what they actually have and maintaining an asset list so that we know what's coming in and out of maintenance custodial.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so a motion and a second on 92,162. All in favor of 92,162, raise your hand. Unanimous.
So grand total public works is 2,192,256.
Correct.
I'd move $14,400 for town committees.
Is that seconded? Alex? Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of 14-4, raise your hand. Unanimous.
I'd move $110,430 for the senior center services.
May I have a
Second.
Second by Jim. Discussion.
You senior. Self-benefit, what is
I
that?
should recuse.
That's a conflict of
I don't go
interest.
there.
I'd just like to discuss that, I took a look at that bus and talked to the mechanic down at the DPW, and that bus should not be on the road.
Are they getting another one from
I think
Ripta
we're-
or Ride, whoever
I
it
think
is?
we're
They're on the
12th on the list.
I had, excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
I had suggested that perhaps the town council look towards a community development block grant this year to try to purchase a new bus. Thought it was worth a try. We have received monies before because it is a senior center, so I think they should make that actually be priority for community development block grants. We usually get some, so it's,
If it qualifies.
well, it's senior services, it's dealing, you know, with the...
It's not, well,
Well, we've got money for that building.
It could
like
be.
the ramp and things like
The
that.
buildings in the district, though, that has the high density, the
Right.
fact that other seniors that are not living in that district. And I'm not, I agree, I think that we should try, even if it's a formula, if it's a percentage of whatever.
Yeah.
You know, we need to come up with something a little bit more innovative. I believe that the
Well,
powers
if
to
we
be to
could get
figure it
some
out.
money, I can say that Laidlaw usually doesn't keep, Laidlaw sells their buses off too, so at relatively low mileage, I guess because of whatever law they're under. So, I mean, there are buses available other than Repta.
And we'll exhaust all those possibilities. The current bus, as far as I'm concerned, you may not know this from my resume, I was running the senior center in Woonsocket for the last 4 years. The current bus is completely unacceptable, and I won't authorize putting it back on the road, endangering the lives of any elders. The injectors are gone, the chassis, everything else is rotten, so it's done. Catherine Taylor, who was the Director of Elderly Affairs for the state, was my boss at one time. So I was able to have a good conversation with her this morning, a general conversation about providing bus service to all our elders in town, especially North Tiverton. That is not entirely all the same things that we heard from RIPTA at the meeting here last night. A lot's going to turn on the interpretation that the FTA gives RIPTA on whether or not ride service, which is for the disabled, is extended into town as a result of the extension of a full-service bus to the park and ride. That's open to interpretation. I have a sneaking hunch that FTA is going to say that they have to provide ride wherever they have a mainline bus. But there are also programs through Medicaid that serve elders, especially those who are disabled. And the state has a contract with an overall logistics company for all services across the state. So even if RIPTA declines to provide flex service here in town, it's quite possible that that overseeing vendor will in fact assign another company to provide smaller buses. That doesn't solve all the problems at the senior center. So just so you understand, we've got about 16 people or so use the senior bus every single day. It's their link to the senior center, which is their meal site, nutrition center, as well as going back and forth to the supermarket and other things. So today I got the paperwork to put us on the list for RIPTA, because we can't, if it's a free bus, we can always decline it if it's not a good piece of equipment, but at least we get on the list, so we're in queue to get something if they can offer it. And I've reached out to the congressman's office, because the way we often did this in the city was we would ask the congressman to get an earmark or to go through FTA, and you can piggyback on a much larger community or a much larger state's bid and get a new bus with only a match requirement. It's a far more effective way to do asset management. But I'm looking into all the possibilities, and obviously I don't want to spend a lot of money, but I do think this is a necessary service for the town, so we'll be pursuing it. But the current bus won't be back on the road.
Matt, what are we doing in the meantime?
come around.
It's all right, you can duck down.
The pullout's going to go around the pole. No, that's a good question.
Sorry, the
And
game, I'll sit right here.
It's entirely possible that we either have to contract with someone for the short term. I've been talking back and forth with Janice, just as we get a handle on the situation, what our options are. We haven't gotten to that short-term question yet, but sometime this
So
week.
were we providing service every day?
Yeah.
Is it something we could cut back on? I know people, need to get their groceries and get their prescriptions and whatnot, but
You're right,
would you go
Chris, I
to a
mean-
couple days a week instead of every day?
Right, when the service is available every day, people avail themselves of
Right.
it every day. So we're going to look at the total demand and who needs it and try to fulfill that demand for the short term.
Not that I want to take away from them, but if it's, anything to help mitigate some of it, because
There's money in the account to continue to run a bus service, so we could
Mhm.
use that account to fund what
Okay.
we need right now.
Before you go, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
What about through the bus company? Would we use First Student? Is it First Student? What about if we contacted them to see if anything might be available through them? I don't mean a lease, I mean something that they may be selling off at a,
It's a possibility if they have the right kind of bus.
well, they pretty much have handicapped, I mean,
Yeah.
with the lift in the back and everything, and I know there's like an age limit that those buses can be on the road.
Right.
So it might be another contact to maybe look at. Maybe they'll donate one to the town out of the goodness of their heart, since we spend so much money on busing.
The customer's always right, you should treat the customer well. Yes.
Let them know.
Okay. So,
Move to 110.
move to 110-430. All in favor, 110-430, raise your hand. Unanimous.
I would move
Wait, so it's 124,830 for the total?
Correct.
Parks and Recreation, I'd move $119,738.
So the whole thing?
Whole
as
As town administrator recommended.
council, yeah, okay.
Second.
Discussion.
Just question on
Go ahead, Joe.
field rehabilitation. That was the number that they were looking for. I don't remember the test. Was that the number they were looking for to do the rehabilitation? That
No,
wa-
for the soccer field?
Separate $12,000 for the soccer
Right,
field.
that was in the capital expenses that we
Okay,
approved the
okay.
other night, for the
So we
soccer
did-
field.
Okay, so we did approve that?
Yes.
I'm sorry, okay, thank you.
Okay, we have a second. Any more discussion? All in favor, 119-738, raise your hand. Unanimous.
119, oh, that's it. That is
I'd move a
119.
credit of $50,400 for the school resource officer.
Any discussion on that one?
I thought there was a percentage.
It is.
Right, it's the percentage of the school resource officer salary. Did he not get a raise? Everyone else got a raise.
Maybe he did.
I don't think we really delved into that. I don't think we put delved into that.
Can we just hold off on doing that until we have the school department here? Because Mr. Eric and Mr. Fiore would know how much they put in.
Okay. You want to withdraw that motion?
I'll withdraw the motion reluctantly.
Okay, so we have two
Yellow.
for next week.
We done for the night?
I think we are.
Anything else to cover?
We might go over, Laura, did you want to do anything else tonight?
Next week is the school resource officer.
And the library.
Library.
I mean, if anyone's game, we can go through the detail.
Just
Mr. Pelletier?
to bring you a little bit of additional notes for your policeman's question. The fellow who is now the school resources officer is a higher ranking officer than formerly. So he the base salary went from about 42,000 to 51,006, just so you know.
Okay.
Benefits would also increase and
Right,
taxes and whatnot, so just keep that in mind when you ask those questions.
okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Well, what we have next, we have, what do we have left? We have the school department, we have
school.
revenue,
And revenue, and then library
and library, and
Resolutions, et cetera.
resolution.
and resolutions.
We have 2 weeks to do it.
Right. I don't know if anyone else had any questions on the revenue, but of course I do.
Go ahead. You got your mouse to go to
There,
now?
Do we have a resolution?
You want to see if the
yet.
treasurer comes in?
yeah,
We're looking for the treasurer, the library.
Treasurer, library, schools will be here next
right,
week.
but this, there may be,
They're coming in next week.
there were just a few things that really stuck out to me on the revenue that we received. First was, obviously, the prorated, just to check and make sure if Denise had run some numbers with the 50,000, because I had noticed it, I don't know if that's high. I wanted her opinion on that. Gun permits was at 0.
We don't give gun permits through Tiverton, that's done through the state.
No, that's not true.
No,
We give gun permits here?
chief does.
No, we don't.
Oh, I'm sorry, maybe the
We
chief
could,
does.
but we
I
don't.
Well,
I don't, from my office.
Chief, I think it was, I think last year, or this current fiscal year, it said it budgeted for 500, and I think year-to-date it was 200 and something. It's not, it's peanuts, but, you know.
It's only for like, I think it was like
Okay.
2 private investigators that actually come up and get their license.
Building Code Board of Appeals disappeared. And not like we got any revenue for
They
it,
didn't
but,
have any last year.
oh,
No activity on the building code board of appeals. I remember them saying that.
okay. And then, well, then, there were, that I would ask the committee, there were a few, and it'll be more apparent next week when I have the projector and you can see it up there. Rather than delete the line, as was on the revenue projections or recommendations from the council, to leave the line in there as 0. And I think particularly of the industrial park sales and the prorated Starwood taxes, so that they don't disappear and then come back, and it almost serves as a reminder for us all that, oh, by the way, we still need to be paying attention to these things.
I believe the building code board of appeals. It was because they didn't have any last year.
Right. And the other thing that we need to talk with the school department, if they are coming next week.
They're coming next week.
Okay, is the Fall River tuitions, because that revenue has been set to 0. And it's been declining off a cliff.
My memory serves me right, you had an agreement with Fall River, they were eventually gonna end.
Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe the
So
other ending.
I think that's the case, but we should verify that. I know that the treasurer talked to the school business manager about it. And I think they came to that same recommendation, but we should verify it. And that was it for the moment.
On the prorated, is it true? Does anybody know that Starwoods or whoever the new entity, I don't know if it's the same entity. Somebody told me they're putting foundations in again, they're starting to build again.
Yes.
So do they have a plan to build out?
Plan is, yes, yes.
They received a zoning change where that was going to be commercial. I believe they were allowed to change to residential, if I understood correctly. So more condos will be going.
Yeah, I heard they're gonna build a
No more high
duplex.
rises, though.
No.
No, but they're
They're
building,
duplexes, right?
Yeah, they didn't get the,
Yeah, I'll have Kate give the number of units. It's been approved.
So it
I've
stays
seen
commercial, but they're allowed to build them.
All I'm wondering, will that affect the prorated tax?
Yes.
Based on the value of what do they provide a schedule of anticipated completion that they're projecting.
I'll ask that.
That may have an impact on our prorated.
And of Dave Robert, did he say he would be back? Only
If you-
things
If he had no
changed and they can
information.
change. Yeah.
Right, if you could,
And the chief on the gun permits.
right, verify with Dave Robert that, it could be that, he's included the Starwood build-out under the prorated 50,000.
I don't know.
We usually reach that 50,000 on programs anyway. But
My point.
there is a bill up that the legislators do not tax. In fact, the council just
Waited on it.
did a resolution opposing that. There is legislation in the House and Senate to not tax until sold or something.
Probably
We
see.
just,
I'm sorry, I'm missing,
but that's, it passed last year, but the governor vetoed it, but we put another resolution.
I'm sorry, what is this legislation?
There's legislation in the House
Prohibit you
and
from
the Senate,
prorating.
so it kind of prohibits.
Anything.
Anything.
Yeah, to help build.
No, I don't know if it's anything. It maybe, could be.
It's not just prohibiting us from prorating Starwoods, it's
No.
presumably
No.
I'm
somewhat
assuming it's
generic.
development of some sort.
Okay.
It's a tax development. You,
Is this the same tax, does it go hand in hand with the, that Kate Michaud has mentioned with the, oh, come on, help me out.
Betterment fee?
No. No, it has to do with all development and why developers have been sitting aside for a while. There's been something that's been extended and extended, and they extended it again.
No, I don't
So
think
that
so.
developers are not in the pipeline can.
I don't think so. What this legislation essentially says is, you are a developer or you are a speculative builder. You can be just a person flipping a house. The improvements and the taxes don't start to come into effect until you essentially sell the house. So all of the improvements, if it's a site that you build 5 houses on, you don't have to pay taxes until you sell a house. And you don't, so as a developer would be essentially a tax-free entity.
I would say so.
And I suppose it's to encourage in other cities and towns where development isn't happening to get developers and sort of entrepreneurial type people together to put some money together and do these deals. But what it essentially would do is it would take the tax revenue out of the town for any partial construction.
But unfortunately, you would have, and I'm not going to pick on Starwoods because that's more of
there's
a
another
very
argument.
private development, but if they did a development, let's say off of South Brayton, North Brayton Road, and you put in a road, and you put in 60 houses, and they didn't sell them, that the town is liable because you've got fire, police, and everything else that you have to go in there for, that you don't get any revenue back for to help support that. So it's really kind of it's not a very good bill
No,
at all.
it's a lousy piece of legislation for towns like Tiverton, yeah.
Well, I'm sure there's another side to it that,
Yeah, from the
someone
developer side, it's
had a
money.
big debate about it.
Yeah.
And I wish someone would build one in the house.
And I know that we're not doing revenue tonight, but I do have a question about revenue, something I've probably been meaning to bring up over the last couple of years that I have failed to do. Not that I'm looking to cut it or to do anything with it, but I think people should know of the stamp tax revenue that we get when people sell property. A portion of that money goes to open space. How much money
60%, I believe.
annually goes,
40%.
annually, dollar-wise, not
No,
percentage-wise?
60 to open space, 40 to, I think it's
Is it?
60 to open space.
Can you
You wanna
tell
know
us what
the
the dollar amounts are
dollars per
for the last 5 years that's gone?
Idea?
And maybe people may want to make some sort of change to that if they want to. I don't know what they want to do, but it's another piece of the pie that we've been putting away, and people have had things taken off the tax rolls simply because we've been putting this money away, so it may be
Well, that's
something.
not, that's,
That is true.
Yeah,
It most certainly is true.
not the agricultural exemption, it's what you're talking,
kind of
okay.
a deal?
No, I thought you were talking about the agricultural exemption.
Okay, so you need 4 things. You're looking for the prorated, the gun permits, the value on the plan and the build-out on the Starwoods, and the stamp tax.
No.
Try and get 'em.
I was going to say that I received 6 correspondence on my inquiry, and if anybody on the Budget Committee is interested, you can call me or email me, and I'll relay the information that I received to you.
Okay. Make a motion to adjourn?
I've got a question. I'd like to ask one of the councilors.
Go ahead.
I understand they went to the meeting in Fall River last week. On the casino. How did it make out?
Mr. Lambert.
I want a brief report. I gave a report to the town council.
It's not at the Budget Committee. And it's not from us.
Matter of fact, I'll run back. I went to the meeting last Thursday. There was a representative there from Foxwood. Mr. Fiola was there on behalf of the Economic Development Committee. I spoke to them both the representative from Foxwood, a Mr. Hancock. The CEO unfortunately had to leave after his presentation, so I didn't speak to him. We got a very nice, warm meeting from both of them. I can tell you, and I think I was quoted in the newspapers, that this may be one of the quotes they gave to Ed Roderick, though. A young lady ran up to me and said, "I need some quotes. Could you give me some quotes?" And I gave her some quotes because I was looking at Mark Dion, who I've known for 20 years, and I thought, well, she's getting the quotes for him. And she attributed everything to Mark, to Ed Roderick. But that aside, it was a warm greeting. Fiola indicated specifically, and he stressed, that the town of Tiverton had his promise that we would look into the issues that we were trying to address. Mr. Hancock was very familiar with Tiverton. As a matter of fact, when I tried to point out to him that the Stafford Road was only, I think I said 0.4 miles from Fall River, he said, no, let me correct you, it's 0.26 miles. So he knew where the roads were, he knew what the issues were. Basically, I told him that we were concerned with the very issues that were being raised by the local neighborhoods groups, Maplewood, St. Anne's, and those groups. And that was the issues of streets and congestion and police and fire and so on and so forth. I was if you haven't read today's Herald News, they gave a brief report today in the paper, and on a report that was sent by the Fall River Chamber of Commerce to Mayor Flanagan, specifically indicating that although we're certainly not a host community and we're not defined as a surrounding community under the Massachusetts legislation, the Chamber of Commerce of Fall River suggested that all communities within 15 miles be given impact status, and specifically identified Lakeville, Freetown, Swansea, Somerset, and specifically by name Tiverton, Rhode Island, both with respect to the issues of hiring and, what was the other issue, Matt? Hiring and... contracts. Yeah, I thought this was very important. One of the suggestions of the Chamber of Commerce was that Starwoods would have to use, for the communities I've just named, Foxwood would have to use, spend $35 million with the companies within that 15-mile radius. Again, without having that little memo in front of me from the Chamber of Commerce, I think, Matt, that if you did quickly the calculations and all of the communities were treated the same, they were talking about 250 to 300 jobs for Tiverton. I don't know if anything will come of that, but I mean, that's where we are. The recommendation I made to the town council at our last meeting is, I really didn't see that there was anything that we could do at this point that would be helpful. They really have two giant steps that they have to take in Fall River. One, they have to get past the referendum, and that's not guaranteed. There were a lot of people there at this meeting that spoke out against the casino, and of course, this very proposal was defeated in Milford. I think it was in November. Then after that, they would have to go before the Massachusetts Casino Commission, although the CEO at the presentation, Mr. Butera, did indicate that they've already done all of that groundwork. For example, item number 1, they have to prove that they would be able to come up with $500 million tomorrow. Well, they've already proved that to the satisfaction of the Casino Commission. So a lot of the steps that they would have to take as the second hurdle in all of this process, they've already accomplished as they were going through the process in Milford. So that's where we stand. My suggestion to the town council was, let's wait for 2 months, see what the outcome of the election is in Fall River. I think the Chamber of Commerce and Mr. Fioli at the Development Committee are both looking out for us. We have their promise. And at least from that very, very first memo that's come out of the Chamber of Commerce, apparently they're keeping their word.
Very good.
So I think after the vote, if the casinos are coming to a Fall River, we would welcome anybody's input as to how we should approach this. And I was told by Mr. Hancock that he would specifically note the interest of Tiverton when he got back to Foxwood, and he assured me that Mr. Butera would take personally any telephone call that came from Tiverton. That's where we are.
And if that
They want any land for expansion?
Well, actually, they did, I wasn't aware of this. They actually have to make a presentation as to where they would potentially expand, and none of that area is in Tiverton, something that I was interested in. The expansion area roughly covers the old Shores area, right up to what was the old, I think it was called the Laurel Lake School, that whole area around up Rhode Island Avenue. Yeah, so that was their expansion area. Nothing comes into Tiverton.
They've already approached all the homeowners on Laurel Street and the school.
They have? Yeah,
And
yeah.
supposedly that's,
Yeah.
They're gonna buy
All
both.
together, for whatever you want to do for your calculations, their estimate was that they expect, now this is a smaller Foxwood.
Right.
From the numbers that they were coming out with, they didn't say this is my interpretation. The casino they're talking about is roughly 10 to 15% of what Foxwood is. For example, and this is what I base my percentage on, Foxwood has 2,400 hotel rooms available. They're talking about a hotel that would have 200. You can do the
People
calculations
still sit
yourself.
down a rock pile over there in the industrial park?
Well, the other thing too that was that gives you some idea as to of how large this development is going to be. They did show some conceptual drawings, and at least from the conceptual drawings, as best I could interpret them, I didn't see any building that looked like it was more than 2 stories high.
yeah, that's what I heard also.
It's gonna be like Twin River.
Yeah.
It's basically something like that.
Yeah. So that's it. If any, that's.
And that referendum.
So I'm I think our assignment on the town council, and I did mention to the neighborhood groups. I spoke to the representatives from 3 neighborhood groups, gave them my name and telephone number, and said I'd like to attend. I think one group was from St. Anne's, one was from Maplewood, and,
Corky Row.
no, I didn't get
Corky
Corky
Row
Row
wasn't there.
people. Who was the other one?
If you get on Perry Long's, I can get you on Perry Long's distribution.
Yeah, I'd like to go. I'd like to go to
And
those
what he does is he
meetings.
sends me all the neighborhood sites.
Yeah.
I'll talk to you.
Okay, good.
Get you on.
Discussion later.
Yeah.